Hi, and welcome back to Journey to Harmony. I'm your host, Richard Harmon. I'm very happy today to have a guest with me, Gabriel Weah. Gabe has a lot of experience in the IT industry, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey. Gabe, how are you today?
Hey, Richard. Feels good to be here. I'm excited. Feeling pretty good.
Perfect. Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself here to the people. Let them know a little bit about yourself and what is it that you do.
Yeah, so as you stated before, my name is Gabriel. I've been in the tech industry now for the past 3 years, three going on four. I started getting interested a little towards the pandemic, and since then, like yeah, it's just added on since.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, go ahead.
What's your actual role in IT?
Yes, so I work as a security analyst. I have been working in this role for the past three years.
You're in the role you've been working for 3 years. Like, did you jump into the industry with experience? How did you get started?
So how I actually got in is really interesting. So prior to me being a security analyst, I was working with the company that I've been working with for the past probably 7, 8 years. And I initially came into the company working in the call center straight out of college. I had got my bachelor's in marketing and did the call center thing for a little bit. And then I transitioned out of that role into a financial counselor role.
Mhm.
And I did that for the past 2 to 3 years. And while I was doing that, I was in school. I got interested in healthcare. So I decided to go back and get my master's in healthcare. But then once I got done, I started getting interested in IT, and I was just kind of at like a crossroad where it's just like, all right, I need to figure out exactly what I want to do. So I did a lot of research. I was very much on YouTube a lot,
Mhm.
uh, just on different forums, just doing a lot of research, Googling and stuff like that. And I had a friend at the time who was working in uh, working in Power Apps,
Mhm.
which is a Microsoft product. And I was just looking and just in awe at the flexibility that he had, just to be working in Minnesota one day and then working in a different state the next day, and then just the different types of projects that he was working on. Of course, the salary that he was making was actually pretty good at the time. So I think taking all that into consideration, I started to get interested more and more in tech. So going back to what I was saying, I was at this crossroad where I needed to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So I ended up reaching out to the IT director for my organization, which was a healthcare organization. And I just set up like an informational meeting just to get an idea of the different type of IT opportunities out there. Um, when I initially reached out, I never got a response back. So I was just like, all right, maybe IT is not the route for me, XYZ. But at the same time, I was still attending a lot of tech conferences, just getting myself immersed in the field. And I ended up coming across someone that I previously knew from high school, and he was at the tech conference, and we just kind of like reconnected. And he was a DevOps engineer at the time, and we just started talking a little bit more. And he let me know how he was in the tech industry. And I just let him know my interests and how I was looking forward to getting in. And he asked what I had done. And I let him know that I reached out to uh, my organization in the IT department and the senior director, but I never got a response back. And I told him I was exploring outside of my organization. And he just encouraged me to keep applying, or not to keep applying, but to keep reaching out. And I ended up reaching out again until I got a response from the senior director. Once
Mhm.
I ended up meeting with them, it was a very
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you said a lot so far. So
yeah.
so again, like you said, like you initially reached out to the director and didn't get a response. Like before that, what were you doing? Like, what were you like you said, you were in working in call center. Did you finish your bachelor's degree? Like, what was the education
Yeah.
like?
So at that time, I had finished my bachelor's degree. I finished my bachelor's degree before I was in the call center, and then
Mhm.
when I was in the call center, I transitioned over to a financial counselor, all within the healthcare space.
Okay.
At the time, I was super interested in healthcare, so I ended up going back to school to get my master's in healthcare administration.
Okay. So you get so a health master's in healthcare administration. That
Yeah, I was all over the place.
uh,
I was all over the place. I was really at a point in time where I was just trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do.
mhm.
You know, my family just has a history in healthcare, so it just kind of felt natural to gravitate towards it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So you graduate from which with your master's. Do you initially get that role with the IT, or what happens next?
so the fact that I did have my master's, it was good, and I
Mhm.
do believe that that played a portion in the organization taking me serious, just in terms of me trying to transition over to the
Yeah.
tech side of healthcare. So I do believe that that did play a factor in me just giving me the all right. He's actually serious about doing this. So I do believe it played a role in that.
Definitely. That's what's up. So now you're officially you've graduated with your degree. You are now working in IT. What is it like? So like a lot of people, there's a huge learning curve. I think for a lot of people initially when you especially you go in and you're at a pretty decent level. What was that like? I guess what was your first 6 months like for you?
The first 6 months were rough, to say the least. I say to say the least. I think you try to do as much prep as you can when you get into like a new role,
Mhm.
but you don't really know what to expect. It's kind of like you expect the unexpected. Of course,
Mhm.
you can do as much research as you can to try to gain an edge, but you won't know exactly what you're doing day to day until you're actually in the role doing the
Yeah.
day. So I felt like I spent the first 6 months dealing with imposter syndrome. Like, man, what did I do? Did I just make a mistake? You know, did I make mistakes switching over from a career that had a pretty good trajectory in going forward, and I could see the future with my master's? Did I
Yeah.
make a mistake in transitioning over? So yeah, I spent the first 6 months, kind of going through the motions of adjusting to a new job, a new day to day, and just learning some of the terms that I would need to learn to be successful in this role.
Definitely. For you, was that in the midst? Was that pre-pandemic or was that in the middle of the pandemic when you started off that role?
You want to know what's so funny is I started this role in the pandemic. It was in the pandemic. So
Mhm.
I had met my manager for the first time so after I met with the senior director put me in touch with the cybersecurity manager at the time.
Mhm.
And I had a really good, pleasant conversation with her. There weren't any opportunities at that time, but fast forward a few months later, she ended up reaching out to me
Mhm.
for an opening. And of course, I ended up taking it. But I onboarded remotely. So I spent the first 2 to 3 years just working remotely, and I never got a chance to really see my manager face to face.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty funny story.
that's crazy. So, you've gone in, you've had a chance to experience, say like the overall learning experience. What are some technologies that you guys are focused on as you're working?
Active Directory has been one that I didn't have any prior experience to learning, but then once I started the role, I feel like I am an Active Directory master now. So that's one. Heavily into Microsoft products,
Mhm.
everything Microsoft related. So Office 365 products, the cloud computing side of Microsoft, that would be Azure. Um, I worked a lot with ticket management systems, Jira, ServiceNow. So just a variety of tools, PowerShell, scripting.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to name a few.
So with that, like you said, like you've had a bunch of different experiences. Well, what are some things that you've worked on, or what are some areas that you've learned? What are some additional trainings that you've taken in the time period that have allowed you to further your knowledge?
Yeah, so the cool thing about my organization is that they are super supportive of continuous learning. So, one thing that I've done is I've tried to brush up on just my information security skills. So every year I usually enroll into a CISSP program. It's something that I hope to eventually get in the future.
Really quickly for people who don't know, CISSP.
Yep. So CISSP is short for Certified Information System Security Professional.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, that is the premier certification for an information security professional.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a little bit of background context about that. And then, yeah, I've been taking a class for the past yearly. It starts it starts around every time this year. Have been taking those courses that usually runs a few months a year. I've been taking that, and then I've also been currently enrolled in a cloud computing boot camp as well, just to kind of like double down on my skill set.
Mm-hmm. So some people who are looking to get into IT, they generally are attracted to a few things. So they're attracted to the flexibility with work. They're
Yeah,
attracted
yeah,
to like the status, kind of you work in IT, kind of it's kind of like saying, hey, I go to Harvard type of thing.
yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that is the money. So like, what is it like? So if somebody gets there, if CISSP, or if you are a senior security analyst, what are some numbers? I guess what are some ranges that someone can expect to receive in that range?
That is actually a really good question. And to answer your question, it varies. So let's say, for example, you are starting in entry level. You may or may not have any experience in the information security space.
Mm-hmm.
Starting salary range could be anywhere from mid 75K up to mid 85K starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say you go through the motions, you gain your experience. You can slowly start to either, if you continue to stay with the same organization, you'll eventually still continue to get raises. Of course, you may get promoted, which could also include another raise.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one route that people take. Another route is you could stay at an organization, get the experience for the time that you need, let's say a year or two, and you can leverage that experience and education to apply for another job. That of course, could increase your salary exponentially. So that's another scenario. Of course, if you end up getting a certification, that also adds to your salary, but you could earn well over six figures
Yeah.
within this space.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the amount of time and the dedication that you put in.
Definitely. It's real funny because I have I watch a lot of people on YouTube and stuff like that, and they're generally might be working as a contractor for like the government or something. And though those royal government contract, it's generally
Yeah,
based in like Virginia or like San Diego, but man, them dudes be pulling in 250, 300,000 real. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's definitely a lucrative space.
yeah. It's definitely a lucrative space. That's another route that people tend to take. So if you are able to gain the skills, some people get into contracting, more specifically government contracting, and those I hear are another ball game, man. Yeah, but yeah, plenty of opportunities. Plenty
Yeah,
of opportunities. Sky's the limit.
definitely.